This is a recap of UFC Fight Night Sanhagen versus Figueiredo. As you can see on the right, I got 7 out of 12, and I got 4 perfect picks. So, not my best night, but to go over the fights, you can see in the main event, Sanhagen did win by inflicting a knee injury on his opponent, and I had him winning by decision. And I think he was on his way to do that, even if he hadn't gotten a finish. And I was surprised that Davison didn't perform better. Ever since his Cody Garbrandt fight, I think I've been giving him a little too much credit because when he moved up in weight and took on Cody and defeated him so easily, I thought he was going to be a real contender in this division, especially considering that he was a previous champion in his own division. But from this point on, I'm not going to be favoring him in his matchups for those reasons. And he is getting up there in age somewhat. So next we had, let's go to the next one. This next one we had Rainer de Ritter versus Bo Nickel. Pretty impressive to see him break down Bo Nickel like that, pretty much make him quit. And Bo Nickel did surprisingly bad, especially with the way he talks and has talked about where he thinks he is in terms of competition in the UFC. But I did have René de Ritter as the winner, as you can see. I thought it would be a decision, but he got a KO. Next we had D-Rod, won by a left hook and ground punch, it says here. And round 3. Overall, the fight I felt was pretty even until D-Rod did what he did, but I think it could have gone either way if it had gone to decision. And just honestly, not a very exciting fight. Next, we had Daniel Marcos. I had him winning, but just another fighter who lost their O this year. I didn't think he'd be one of them, especially since he's been on the positive side for him as far as getting a decision gifted to him, even when he perhaps didn't deserve them. Next, we had Sergey City versus Cameron Smotherman. This is another fight that I got correct. What can I say? He just basically outclassed Cameron, I felt like. And this was Smotherman's first fight in the UFC, so that's understandable. And then we had Mason Jones versus Jeremy Stevens. I was hyped up on Jeremy Stevens returning and what he's done in the BKFC and what he did to Eddie Alvarez recently, but didn't translate to the cage. And he's another fighter who is getting up there in age. And I keep telling myself this every week, but we can't these days just assume a fighter is going to win just because we've known them for a long time. They've accumulated a nice highlight reel for themselves. Fighting organizations in general are pretty stacked these days, and almost everybody is going to be good at this point. And Mason Jones, someone who's come into the UFC before, then left and came back. In retrospect, it made sense he was going to be the winner. I guess perhaps they wanted to use Jeremy Stevens' name to help build up Mason Jones. I'm not sure about that, but it doesn't seem like Jeremy. I don't know the details of his contract, but it doesn't strike me as someone who's going to be sticking around in the UFC beyond this one-off fight. Next, Yana Santos versus Miesha Tate. Now, this was a frustrating fight to watch. Last time I saw Miesha Tate, she performed way better and looked like a completely different fighter than she did in this fight. I think she only got 1 takedown in the 3rd round. I think she might have won that round, or at least that's what it looked like to me. But her striking is horrible, and she wasn't able to do anything with her striking. Yana Santos was just pretty much landing at range. Miesha lost me some money. Next, we had Asmat Bekov versus Ryan Loder. Now, this was my perfect pick, or 1 of 4, but this one was the only one that... The others were fighters I picked to win by decision that were perfect. This one was a KO round 1 for Asmat Bekov. That did a good job, and the fight kind of speaks for itself. So next, now this fight Marina Rodriguez is retired now after this fight, she says. But after I saw her fight against Michelle Waterson and the way she beat her up on the feet, I've never understood why I've never seen her perform like that again. And I guess that's because Michelle Waterson was perhaps not as high level as the people she's faced after. Because she's just disappointed me every other time since then. And as far as Gillian Robinson, I did believe she was going to win. And I got a little bit greedy. And I put Gillian Robertson to win over half a round and to win by submission. So I think that was plus 370 odds I had there, which is actually kind of, it's good, but for getting that specific, it's still kind of low in my opinion. But that just goes to show how much of a lock Gillian was. And just in general, she did great takedown, good aggression, and she'll take a win wherever she can find it. She just happened to find it by KO this time. And she was looking for a sub at certain points, but she realized that the ground and pound for the TKO was right there, so she took it, so I don't blame her. Next, Quang Lee versus Gaston Bolanos. I believe I had Gaston in this fight. I did. And I thought he was going to get a KO, but in this fight, it looked like he had nothing to offer except some big looping punches. And Quang Lee did a great job. He had a lot of good takedowns, good control on the ground. Definitely overlooked him, which I shouldn't have. Next, we had Thomas Peterson versus Dontel Mays. Another lock. I knew Thomas Peterson was going to win, and I had him winning by decision, which was one of my perfect picks. There were some moments where it looked like he might get a finish, but he didn't. Nowadays, when I see Dontel Mays, like, you just got to pick the other person. A long time ago, I used to rate Dontel Mays pretty highly, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's a training partner or was a training partner of John Jones. And I gave him way too much credit for that, but can't do that anymore. Can't give someone credit just because they're associated with a high level fighter. Next. So anyway, but like I was saying, Thomas Peterson should have been a lock, but I think he was minus 300, 350. And at those numbers, it gets kind of scary, but that's why they're that way, because the bookies can't give you freebies. I guess they knew he was the favorite for a reason. The next fight we have Juliana Miller versus Ivana Petrovic. This one I got wrong, and as far as the performance, Juliana Miller did great, and she just fought her heart out. I don't know how else to say it. It looked like Ivana had the better striking, but Juliana was able to mix up her skills and eventually just start to overwhelm Ivana throughout the fight. So yeah, those were the fights. So good luck this next Saturday. Hopefully you won some money this Saturday, because I didn't. But hopefully this next week with Madalena versus whatever his name is, I forgot. Oh, Bilal Muhammad. Hopefully you win some money on that card.